Preparing for retirement can seem incredibly overwhelming to a lot of people. And the more we put off that preparation because of that overwhelm, the further and further that retirement goal seems away from us. So today's video, I'm going to talk about 10 things you can do today to start to prepare yourself for retirement. Hey everybody, I'm James Knoll, founder of Root Financial Partners, and I'm here to teach you what you need to know to create a secure retirement. There's a whole lot that goes into retirement planning. And really, it's a whole lot that goes into your unique version of retirement planning, of how can you optimize everything that you're doing to best prepare for that future date. Now, in today's video, I'm going to give you 10 steps that you can take in no particular order that at least will give you a high-level overview of what are the most important things to be thinking through as you prepare for your specific retirement. This list actually comes from an AARP article that I thought was really good, and so I'm going to go through some of these points they make to make sure that you have the information you need to prepare for your retirement. Number one, the first step that you need to take to get ready for retirement is to define your retirement. Now, this is sometimes for a lot of people the most difficult part. It's a question of, okay, if you want to retire, what do you want to do? What does life look like? How are you spending your days? And there's this sense of, oh my goodness, I've never really thought about it. Don't put too much pressure on yourself. As you retire, ask yourself this question. Do you simply want to maintain the life that you already have? Just no longer have to go to work to earn a salary to pay for it? Or do you envision life looking quite different? If you envision life just kind of maintaining what you have today and lifestyle being pretty similar to what you have today, defining your retirement maybe isn't all that different than what you have today. It's simply a matter of understanding what does it cost to live today, and could you replace that cost when you're retiring? Now, if you think about retirement and your goal is to travel more, to spend more time with family, or to volunteer, or to join a country club, or to do all these different things, we'll start thinking about how does that look different than what life looks like today. What are the things that would give you the most sense of contentment or happiness or purpose? And really that's goal number one. If you don't know where you're going, if you don't know what you're ultimately planning for, it's tough to know what should you do with your assets or your income or your tax strategy or anything else to most optimize the path from where you are today to where you want to be in the future. So step number one is define your retirement. Step number two is take stock of your assets. So when it comes to retirement, the goal is to see how can you create enough passive income to fully support what you want to do. To take those trips, to do those activities, to spend that time with family, the goal is how can you have income coming in to fully support that, even if you're not spending 40 plus hours a week in a job that's paying you a salary to do that. Now, one way in which you're going to be able to generate income in retirement is having different assets. So your 401ks or your IRAs or your Roth IRAs or your brokerage accounts, those are all just assets. To understand how much those assets can create for you is going to be a reflection of two main things. Number one is how are those assets invested? That's going to determine how much income they can create. But number two, how much do you have in assets? For a lot of people, they've maybe gone from a few jobs to a few jobs to a few jobs over the course of their lifetime. So they might have 401ks along the way. They might have old accounts that they've left along the way. They might have different investments in different places. So step number two to prepare for retirement is get that organized. Understand what's the total amount I have in pre-tax accounts, like 401ks and like traditional IRAs. What's the total amount I have in Roth accounts, whether Roth IRAs or Roth 401ks? What's the total amount I have in brokerage accounts, so non-retirement accounts? And then what's the total combined? That's going to be a crucial element of your retirement plan. So understanding what you have in various assets is going to be a very important piece as you begin to plan for retirement. Step number three, as you plan to prepare for retirement, is to evaluate your health. Not your health when you retire, not your health at a future point, your health today. If you retire, but you no longer have your health, it does not matter how much money you have. It doesn't matter how much money you set aside to travel, to do those things that you want to do, to live the life you want to live, if your health is gone, or if your health is severely limited. So as you take stock of your health, or as you evaluate your health, begin doing the things to improve that. The most sad thing I see is people who've prepared so well financially for retirement, but they neglected their health along the way. And sometimes they neglected their health because they were working a job that was incredibly demanding or put a tremendous amount of stress upon them, but they felt like they couldn't break away yet because they didn't have their financial plan in place to retire. Well, you have to prioritize your health. It doesn't matter if you have all the money in the world, if you can't enjoy it because your health's not there, you're not going to have a satisfying or fulfilling retirement. So doing the things that lead to a more healthy version of you is extremely important both today and in terms of your ability to fully enjoy retirement. This can be your physical health, this can be your mental health. Make sure that you're focusing and prioritizing that in order to have the best version possible of your retirement. Step number 4, as you prepare to get ready for retirement, is determine when to collect Social Security. Now, Social Security for most people will not be the only income source they have in retirement, but it will be a fairly significant income source. Even for people who've done a great job and saved and invested a whole bunch of money, Social Security is still a pretty integral part of their retirement plan. Now, the first step in this is understanding what you're eligible for. With Social Security, you can collect as early as age 62 or as late as age 70, and every year that you wait in the meantime, your benefit continues to increase. So you have to understand what's the right time to collect. Do you collect earlier and get a lower benefit but get it for more years? Or do you collect later and get a higher benefit but get it for fewer years? Understand the decision that makes most sense for you, and keep in mind it's not just a decision of how much maximizes your Social Security. You have to look at your entire plan. How does Social Security impact what you have to take out of your investments? How does your Social Security strategy impact what you'll pay in taxes over time? How does your Social Security strategy protect both you and potentially a surviving spouse in retirement? So understand what your Social Security options are, and then determine the best strategy for you. Step number 5 as you prepare for retirement is network. A lot of times, one of the benefits of a job is to provide those social interactions. Now, when you retire, when you're no longer in the workplace, a lot of those social interactions will go away. So how do you replace that? That networking can look like in-person things, whether it's Toastmasters clubs, whether it's activities around you, whether it's gatherings at a church or community club. It could also look virtual. A lot of people are making great connections, whether it's on Twitter or Facebook or other online social forums. But creating that networking group or creating that interaction is going to be crucial as you transition into retirement, to make sure that you have that social engagement, to make sure that you have that community around you, so that not only can you support your retirement goals financially, but you have the necessary social interaction to be fully enjoying that next season of life. Step number 6 is to decide how much you want or need to work. Now, this might seem like an interesting step. You might be saying, James, the whole point of retiring is I don't have to work. For a lot of people, that's the case. But I will tell you this. For many people, it is very difficult to go from working full-time for 30 or 40 years of their life, maybe putting a lot of hours in at work, to all of a sudden doing nothing. That's a very difficult transition. Work tends to provide a lot of meaning, a lot of purpose, a lot of structure, a lot of social interaction. And if you go from working a lot to nothing all at once, for many people, that's a pretty scary transition. So for a lot of people, even if they don't need to work, continuing to work, even if it's in a part-time basis, maybe it's in a consulting basis, if it's doing something that you really enjoy doing, it's not a lot of stress, it's not a lot of burden on you, but it's something that's applying your skill set, or it's something that's giving you a lot of contentment or purpose or meaning or structure, that can be a very healthy thing for completely non-financial reasons. Now, some people may need to continue to work for those financial reasons. So as you're looking at your financial plan and understanding how much income will be coming in versus how much will your expenses be in retirement, there might be a gap or a shortfall. So sometimes you will need to work, but it doesn't necessarily need to mean you need to work at the full-time amount that you may be working at right now. So step number 6, as you decide how much you want to or need to work, is understand what could that look like. Either look at it through the lens of how much income do I need to create to supplement my retirement plan, or what types of things do I want to spend my days doing at work, not necessarily for the income, but for the social engagement or the structure or the purpose or just the fun of it. But understanding what that could potentially look like in retirement, because it is a hard transition to go from working your whole life to doing completely nothing when it comes to work when you retire. Step 7 in getting ready for retirement is to create that retirement budget. Now, this goes back to step number 1. When I said step number 1 is to define your retirement. So defining your retirement is a non-financial aspect of it, of understanding what do you want to spend your days doing. How much golf do you want to play? How much time do you want to spend volunteering? How much time do you want to spend with family or with friends or with different social interactions? Step number 7 is almost like quantifying how much is it going to cost to be able to afford those things. So as you create your retirement budget, start by understanding what are my necessities. So what things won't go away in retirement? Well, even when I'm retired, I'm still going to be putting food on the table. I'm still going to be paying utilities. I'm still going to have a cell phone bill. I'm still going to have a cable bill or whatever it might be. Start with the necessities that are your basic minimum monthly amounts, and then understand on top of that, what else might you want to do? How much travel do you want to do? How much time do you want to spend in different activities? And the reason it's nice to separate those is your basic expenses typically will be with you forever. So as long as you're living, you're going to be paying for food. As long as you're living, you're going to be paying for some type of shelter. As long as you're living, you're going to be paying for utilities or different things like that. But other things like travel or other things like different types of activities or engagements, those might be something you do for the first 10 years of retirement, the first 15 years of retirement, but then tend to trail off towards the latter years. So understand what that retirement budget looks like at the beginning and how that maybe changes over time is the next most important piece as you prepare to retire, because that's ultimately the goal that you have. Those are the expenses that you have, and the next step would be to see how do you create the income needed to fully meet those expenses, both day one of retirement all the way through the end of retirement. Step number 8, and this might not be relevant for everyone, is find ways to potentially cut expenses or to save more. Now, I want to say, not everyone needs to do this. Some people, if you've done a great job of saving or investing or you're very much on track, there's no need to cut expenses. There's no need to save more. In fact, I would discourage it. A lot of people always are feeling like they need to cut expenses or save more or do more or prepare more. And if we look at it, they may already be on track. And by doing more and saving more and deferring more, it's just deferring their ability to enjoy what they're already bringing in, but it's not enhancing their future ability to spend any more because they're already fully on track. So for some people, this step should be completely disregarded, but for others, as you start to define what retirement looks like, as you start to build out that retirement budget, as you start to understand what income options you'll have from things like Social Security or your portfolio or otherwise, you may notice a shortfall. You may say, my retirement budget is here, but my income sources are only here. Well, can you cut expenses in retirement to make things work? Or can you save more today to bring up the level of income your portfolio will be able to generate for you? So step number 8 is almost making those tweaks that you need to make sure you're on track for the goals that you have for your retirement. Step number 9 as you prepare to retire is to prepare for the unexpected. So we don't do financial planning, we don't run projections because we think we can perfectly predict what the next 20, 30 plus years of your life are going to look like. No, we do it as a starting point. We do it to say what's a reasonable expectation about what the future might hold, but it would be foolish to assume that there's not going to be something that could go wrong. Whether it's healthcare costs, whether it's the cost of a spouse passing away, whether it's a long-term care cost, whether it's an emergency that happens along the way, there are certainly things that can and do come up. And if you don't spend any time preparing for those, you're going to be caught off guard and it's going to be a big surprise. So how can you understand what would be the impact of a long-term care event? What would be the impact of one spouse predeceasing the other and potentially cutting the income for the surviving spouse? What would be the impact of a health event under different insurance coverages? What would be the impact if an emergency were to come up? Do we have enough in our emergency fund to fully fund it? So not just making sure you're looking at what's going to be fun and what are you looking forward to and how do we fund these trips and this time and this experience, but also understanding what could go wrong. What are the things that will likely happen along the way so we can protect that, either with emergency funds, with types of insurances, or different measures we take along the way. And then finally, step number 10, in terms of how can you best prepare for your retirement, is stick to and monitor the plan. As I mentioned, no financial plan is set in stone. No financial plan can perfectly predict everything that's going to happen over the next several years in terms of inflation, in terms of expenses, in terms of what the stock market's going to do, in terms of what tax legislation is going to do. There's a whole lot that can go wrong. There's a quote about financial planning that I love, and it goes like this. It's from E.L. Doctorow. And he says, financial planning is like driving a car at night. You can never see further than your headlights, but you can make the whole trip that way. Meaning if we treat financial planning in a sense that we can just run a projection, that's going to tell us exactly what the future looks like. It's kind of like saying you're going to go on a road trip at night. And you're going to look at your map and say, okay, here's all the different turns I'm going to take along the way, and then take off in your car with no headlights on. What are the odds you're going to crash? What are the odds that something's going to happen unexpectedly along the way? 100%. Now, the good thing is we don't need to be able to predict exactly what's going to happen along the way in the same way that a car's headlights, if they are traveling from where I am, San Diego, say to the East Coast, those headlights are not going to go from San Diego to the East Coast. They're only going to go a little bit in front of me. But as long as I keep looking at what's in front of me, what's in front of me, what's in front of me, as well as having a high level understanding of what different things do I need to navigate along the way, you're going to be just fine. But It's going to require monitoring. It's going to require tweaking. It's going to require understanding when can I cut back or when can I increase expenses. But if you do those types of things along the way, and if you stick to your plan, that's the 10th key to success in terms of planning for your retirement. Thanks again for watching. This is James Knoll with Root Financial Partners. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to share it with someone else who you think could find value from it. And also be sure to like this video and subscribe for more content like this. And if you want more resources about how you can create a secure retirement, be sure to check out our podcast called Ready for Retirement. And finally, if you're interested in seeing how our services can help you create a secure retirement, check us out at rootfinancialpartners.com.